Good morning. I am so excited to chat with you guys today. My name is Amanda Payne. I am the founder of Nurses in Tech, and you are joining us today. We are talking about the power of community building and nursing, and why it is so important to build community within the nursing field. So we may have some others join us today while we are on this live, which is totally okay. Checking, just waiting for a few seconds to make sure that we are live. So bear with me just a couple minutes as I make sure that we are connected correctly. All right. So, as we get started today, I wanted to talk to you guys about the power of building community within nursing. This is something that I have gotten a lot of questions on and comments on. And I think it's really important as it relates to the future of nursing, building communities. And so, Nurses in Tech is a membership community for nurses that want to understand the options that they have at the intersection of nursing and technology. We have five pillars. They are career, technology, leadership, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And so, what we do is we gain to create a safe space for nurses to come together and to build synergy amongst each other about, ideas, challenges that they've had, new innovations, and just come together and to be able to have open and honest conversation around these concepts. And so, the first thing I want to talk about today is, the power of your mission and your vision. So, it's really important when you bring together any group of people to have a clear mission and a clear vision for why you've created and why you guys are gathering. And so, your mission and your mission is like, okay, what is the common understanding that we have that bring us all together? Like, why are we gathering in this space, and around what idea are we gathering, right? And so, give me 1 second. Just gonna let a few more people in to the space. Okay. So why are we gathering? Why are we? What is the purpose of us all coming together? And so, the mission of Nurses in Tech is to, like I said, bring nurses together that want to understand what their options are at the intersection of nursing and technology, and provide a safe space for them to begin to receive mentorship, receive resources, as well as have support in a safe place. And in this process, we don't necessarily push nurses leaving the field of nursing, but in reality, we actually push the idea of, let's elevate. Like, what are the options that I have in my career? I think it's even more important to look at having these options and building communities at every level of nursing. So, one of our missions, so you have a mission, uh then you have your vision is like, where do you see? So we've gathered around this specific mission. This is what the mission is. This is what our why is of gathering together. And the vision is like, what is the plan, right? Like, I'm sure we've done vision boards before. Most of us have done vision boards either for our personal or our professional lives. And so a vision is about, okay, where do I see this going, right? And so your vision is like, what is the guiding principle for where you see this group? So in this case, we're talking about building community. So your vision is going to be, where do I see this organization or this group of people that have gathered together around this specific mission, where do I see them going? And so we have a vision for Nurses in Tech, and our vision is to help 1,000 nurses to transition into a career at the intersection of nursing and technology by the end of 2025. And so we have our mission, we've come together. We want to provide a safe space for nurses that want to understand what the options are at the intersection of nursing and technology. And our vision is we want to help 1,000 nurses to transition into a career focused at the intersection of nursing and technology. I have to emphasize that we at Nurses in Tech do not encourage nurses to leave the field of nursing. However, there are some nurses that may find entrepreneurship endeavors outside of the direct patient care, but still within the career field of nursing. Another reason that I felt Nurses in Tech was a needed space for nurses is because specifically since COVID really opened up the opportunity for many nurses to look at new ways to provide patient care and just new ways to be employed and take care of your family that didn't necessarily require you to have to give a lot of your physical and mental ability and energy, or just working at the bedside for 12 hours. And so COVID made it available that there were work from home jobs, and that was more not just in nursing, but we're talking about nursing because we're nurses. And so it opened up this option that, okay, it's more of a standard. Now we can think about how can healthcare be provided outside of your traditional healthcare modalities. I'm going to stop right here because I see some people have joined. You guys are more than welcome to come on camera, introduce yourself. If you have a business, you can state your business and how people can find you. And then if you have any specific reasons why you joined today, let me know what those are. Or you could also join in the conversation. I'm more than willing to share the floor today, if you can. So, Tina, I know you're probably at work. Hi, Leah.
Hello, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. So
Good.
I am Leah Woodley. My company, well, not my company, but the company I work for, Dorval and Sherney Financial Advisors, we are partnered with Nurses in Tech. And I just like to come in on these meetings and just hear what the needs are, just to get more insight into what nurses are going through. Just as a background, our firm has worked with nurses for the past 25 years. And so this is very near and dear to our hearts. So that's why I'm here.
We appreciate Leah and Dan. They are amazing, very patient and encouraging people. They are some of our first partners that have been supportive and continue to be supportive to our community and the mission and the growth of Nurses in Tech. So we are really glad to have you. I'm always happy to see Leah's amazing, beautiful face. Okay. All right. We got you your appointment. Hi, Tina. Tina is one of my favorite nursing friends. Okay. I will be honest that Tina is not a member of Nurses in Tech, but I will tell you, Tina lives in Indianapolis, in Indiana, very close to me. And we were connected through some other amazing nurses. And I have really grown to not only love her as a person, but I love her heart. And we have very similar, what I think, very similar hearts for helping nurses to see and to activate in other areas outside of traditional nursing. So I'll let her tell you guys who she is and what she does.
So I'm Tina Baxter. I am a nurse practitioner, and I also have my own businesses. So the first business I have, Baxter Professional Services, it's a parent business for all the other businesses, is a Baxter Professional Services Health Education, which trains CNAs, home health aides, and soon to be QMAs. Also, we have TB trainings and all this other stuff, CPR, etc. And then I also provide some guidance and training for home care agencies and assisted living and nursing homes as well, for what they're doing, like dementia care and stuff like that. Then I have the Nurse Shark Academy, and that is where I help nurses to build and launch their own businesses. I want nurses to feel like they have a voice and they have a choice. And so my philosophy always is you don't have to leave your profession, but you can leave your job. You can find something else to do with your nursing skills and use that in a positive way to make change in the world. So through that coaching and consulting program, I just recently launched a micro mastermind program for people who want to get started in 30 days. And then I also have a podcast, a Nurse Shark Academy show, where I interview nurse business owners and leaders. So if you know of any nurses out there that would be a good podcast guest, let me know. You can always contact me at the nursesharkacademy.biz. And I attend because I like to hear what's going on with other nurses in technology. Nursing is a STEM field. We need to acknowledge that. There's a great push to get it acknowledged on the federal level so that we get access to more research dollars. So I'm in big support of all of that.
Yep. Well, thank you for joining. I really appreciate you. I'm going to answer a question just in case this question comes up. I'm going to answer it because I'm just straightforward. Those of you that know me know I'm pretty straightforward. Why do I let nurses advertise their businesses? Isn't there competition? No, there is no competition. I don't believe in competition. I only believe in collaboration. And I believe that um, one of the things that we really, really value in Nurses in Tech is having open conversations about the things that are happening in nursing, which means we want to have conversations. We don't exclude people, right? I also am a believer. I'm very active and very vocal about my faith, and I believe that's what's for me is what's for me. And a lot of times we will harbor our connections, harbor our knowledge, roadblock people, and there's just so much need that there is enough for all of us, right? And so I want those nurses that can find Tina by way of Nurses in Tech to be able to find Tina. Just like those nurses that may be able to find me, Nurses in Tech, by way of Nurse Shark Academy. I want them to have that access. I want to open up that access, and we need to really normalize, especially when you talk about community. Right. The other power of building community is it's not just about the people that commit to join your community, right? Think about it. We all live in a neighborhood. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, in the 46218 neighborhood. If you look that up, they're going to tell you that's the ghetto. It's one of the poorest places in Indianapolis. And that's okay, right? But surrounded around this zip code are other zip codes, AKA other communities, right? So we all have these little communities that make up larger communities, right? I say this all the time, Nurses in Tech is not for every nurse. And it's not because, you have to be a nurse that's interested in tech, but you do need to be a nurse that has a forward thinking mindset to be a part of our community. So Nurses in Tech, we don't focus on, not directly, we don't focus on institutional issues, right? We focus on issues that are really closely related to the nurse and how we can elevate and propel the nurse into a higher professional status. And it's very individualized. It's very nurse centered. It's like, what do nurses need to become better versions of themselves? What access do they need to elevate their profession? What access do they need to be able to start the business that they're thinking about starting, right? What support do they need, right? So if you've been a nurse for any amount of time, then even as nurses, there's not always a space for you to go to gain support, right? And so right now, we're going to talk about personal, right? So there is, we're all professionals, but when you are a nurse, a lot of times you're required to show up and do your job and leave the personal side of your life at home. You come to work to take care of patients. You don't come to work to build relationships. You don't come to work. And I'm saying this is what it's not said, but this is how you show up to do your job. You clock in and you focus on those patients that you have to care for that 12-hour shift or 16-hour shift or 8-hour shift that you're there. And so another reason why communities become important in nursing is because in a community you have the opportunity to bring your personal self to the profession. And you actually have the opportunity to do that with other nurses who will understand and who do understand what it is that you're going through, right? I know when I was in nursing school, something that really, really got my attention was that a lot of the nursing students that were married, after we graduated, a good majority of them got divorced. And I never understood like what was happening. Well, shortly after I graduated nursing school, I don't want to say like 3 to 4 years, I got a divorce. I was married in nursing school. Well, I got married in nursing school. And shortly after I graduated, I got a divorce. And I realized that I was so focused in nursing school on finishing school, not to say that that's what caused my divorce, but there were a lot of things that happened during that time that just wasn't able to be addressed. I didn't have time to stop and put the focus on, okay, maybe counseling. We did counseling after I graduated, but there were some things that were happening before. And so just the emotional, the personal, the time pool it takes to be a nurse, even the emotional baggage, not baggage, but the burden we carry as nurses by doing and taking care of people every day weighs a lot on us individually, but it also weighs on our spouses, right? It can also weigh on our children. We don't know it at first, but we are taught to give to our patients. We are taught to save lives, and so sometimes, not purposely, but subconsciously, that those people that are attached to us, our spouses, our children, our family, also sign up for this oath of being a nurse, right? They sign up for this oath not knowing it. Let's see, I've heard this from many nurses in my family and network. Nursing school can be such a huge distraction. It can, and I love the word distraction because when we're in it, we're not thinking about it as a distraction. And it's not meant to destruct us or mess up our lives, right? It's all about the ability. So if we were taught these, like when you go to nursing school, and this might be the same for other professions, but we're talking about nursing, and this is why I think that communities are the perfect place to address some of these interpersonal issues that can't be addressed in school. When you go to nursing school, it's a heavy load, right? In the beginning, I mean the whole way through, but in the beginning, and you have to learn. And there's a reason why nursing school is hard, right? We will not talk about whether it needs to be that hard. If there's other ways that things that can be cut out to make the load lighter or not, we're not going to talk about that. But we can talk about how we support nursing students, right? What if we created communities that were focused on nursing students, right? Where nursing students have the ability to receive mentorship and support from nurses that are in the profession, right? Because who better to explain to you or walk you through some of the challenges of life that are going to come while you're in nursing school than nurses who have done it? I'm guilty of this, right? I've been a nurse 14 years, and for many years, I'm sure I have mentored, I have given advice to people that wanted to be nurses, students, and nurses. I'll tell you what I haven't been guilty of. I have not been guilty of actively being engaged in consistent mentorship of any one individual nurse or nursing student. Why? I just haven't. I could say, I worked at the Red Cross for a while, and I was the lead nurse for my state for a few years, and I did that, and I had that ability. But even then, that was based on a mission for Red Cross, so it still wasn't individualized mentorship. It was based on the mission of Red Cross, right? And so, what if they were able to talk to nurses who have gotten married in nursing school? Who myself, I have 5 children. 4 of those children were babies when I was going through nursing school. 4 of those children had surgery while I was in nursing school, right? What if I actually had access to nursing students where I can say, hey, your kid is having brain surgery. Guess what? Mine's did. My very first year in nursing school, my son had surgery on his brain for a disease that at the time I'm like, what? Periventricular leukomalacia. I can't even believe I can still say that word. But when they first told me what it was, I said, what is that? I don't even know what that is. Where does that come from? Right. And it's my first semester in nursing school. I went to my A&P instructor and said, could you explain this to me? What does this mean? And even though that, he helped me, let me tell you what happened. My son had surgery. Obviously at Riley Hospital, we were out for a while. At the nursing school I was at, there was a policy that if you missed 3 classes, you failed. It didn't matter what your grade was, you failed. And of course, my son had immediate brain surgery, so I missed more than 3 classes. And I passed this class with a 96%. I swear this is not a lie. This man, the same professor that I wanted, asked me, tell me what this means, tried to fail me. He didn't try. The man gave me an F, y'all. The man gave me an F. Now I had other classes. Nobody else, other nursing proven. Nobody else gave me an F, but this man gave me an F. And I said, now I know for a fact I did not fail this class because even while I was at Raleigh Hospital with my son, and at this time, I'm only like 25. I'm like 25 with three kids under the age of 5. Okay. So I'm still trying to figure out, like, this is in my early era, y'all. So I'm still kind of in my little ghetto phase a little bit where it's like, okay. And so I leave, I go to the school, and I had twins. And so my son that had surgery was a twin. And she was going through, later found out, not even 6 months later, she had surgery on her heart. She had a rare congenital heart defect that she had to have surgery on. So anyway, I go to the school, and I'm like, this is wrong. I could not have got an F. Like, I got an A in this class. And they went through the policy, and what happened was I ended up having to do an appeal and go before the board. And I'm gonna be honest, this was like my real first experience with a predominantly white institution. So I went to Marian College, which is a theological school here, very prestigious school. At the time that I went to this school, there were more Black women going to be nurses than they had ever had in history. And so I go and I learn how to do an appeal. I will tell y'all what, this was my first experience in understanding how to handle political climates within the nursing infrastructure. And although I was right, my son was still in the hospital at the time. I still had 2 other babies. And I wrote my appeal out, and I went in and I had to stand before the board of I can't remember who was all on the board or whatever, but I had to give my my stance on it. And let me tell you what happened, y'all. And I don't think I'm an amazing person, but I haven't told this story in a while, and now I'm just thinking about it again. They overturned my F, and I got my grade, which was an A. And not only that, they changed the attendance policy. They reviewed the policy and realized that they were still using a policy that had been mandated by prestigious alumni who were giving great amount of monies to the college, right? Because they went there, and they had decided in previous years that if I'm paying you all this money, you need to make sure that my kid comes to school. All right. So they put this stringent, strict attendance policy in place. Well, at this time, 2005, they decide, we have our nursing school, not just our nursing school, but our school makeup. Our students look different. We have non-traditional students that go here now. And if they want to pay tuition, and I told them this, I remember telling them, if I want to pay tuition and not come to class, so what? What is that? Why is that none of your business, right? Long as I turn in my work and pass the class, really, it's not even your business if I pass the class. If I want to pay tuition and not come to class and not pass, that's my business. You still get paid. Like, why do you care? And so they changed the attendance policy. And that was in my first year at that school. And so what if there was a space where, nursing students are going through issues and they actually had access to other nurses that said, hey, I went through that. I've been through that situation. I might not have the answer, but this is how you can contact me. Let's have a conversation. You're stressed. You're trying to figure out, okay, how to take care of your kids, how to do this assignment, how to find study time. I have a book of ways that I decided and figured out how to manage having 3 children. And I actually had 4 children at the time. Now that I think about it, I had 4 children at the time. So I had 4 children under the age of 5. So, because my youngest son is only a few months younger than my twins. And I had to figure out how to get real innovative on how to get through nursing school. And I had several other things happen to me while I was in nursing school. And so building community, even as early as nursing school and pre-nursing, I think are where we can start looking at, okay, how can we change the profession of nursing, not just professionally, but how can we make sure that we have more, we're intentional about how we support nurses through their journey. Because if we're intentional about how we support nurses through their journey, then they learn how to be intentional about how to take care of themselves on the journey, right? So we now hear all over the world, everything is nurse burnout, nurse burnout, nurse burnout, nurse burnout, nurse burnout. It's not like nurses are the only burnout people. We're not the only burnout profession. We are not. But we are, if you go and you Google burnout, you're probably going to find more entrepreneurs or more people with businesses that focus on nurse burnout than any other profession. People in general just burn out. Like, it's not just nurses, right? Politicians, police officers, firemen, lawyers, teachers. Teachers should probably be like right up there with nurses. Even before doctors, teachers should be right up there with the nurses. Why? Because they deal with the actual students every day. Like nurses deal with the actual patients every day. So burnout is not just something that is, privy to our profession, but we also should be the ones that come up with solutions, not just for others, but for ourselves. And so, like, if we know this is something we have to deal with, what is a great way to address burnout? I got a simple way: create safe spaces for nurses to openly talk about and dialogue what they're dealing with. Now, I know Nurses in Tech is considered to be a professional nursing community, and it is. But in Nurses in Tech, we talk about regular, everyday issues. Last month, we started co-working sessions, and it was once a week, every Monday. And what ended up happening was the co-working sessions once a week weren't enough. They were great to try to start getting the nurses' minds focusing on one goal. But what I realized is what's blocking them from the goal is the stuff that's happening every day. They can't get to the goal and accomplish the goals consistently because life just keeps happening. Whether it's personal or professional, life continues to block them. And so this month we started daily co-working sessions. Listen, nobody could have convinced me that having daily co-working sessions would be a benefit to nurses. I have nurses that show up to these co-working sessions every day. Yesterday, a nurse told me, this is my way. This is my time away. She a DON. She says, I find me a space to go by myself with my computer. She doesn't even come to the co-working sessions, y'all, to accomplish nothing. Now, what I will tell you is the reverse of that is she's accomplishing a lot. A whole lot. She started a whole business. And she told me yesterday, I said, listen, y'all, it's only a few of us. Y'all was here yesterday. We can continue to we're focusing on building content calendars. So I've worked in the intersection of marketing and technology, marketing and sales for the last 4 to 5 years. And so I'm sharing with them my marketing skills. Something else I never thought about doing, but we have quite a few business owners in our community, and we have quite a few nurses that are focusing on starting businesses and desire to be thought leaders in their field. And they have a lot to share. They are thought leaders, but they don't know how to get what's in their head out of their head into the world. And when they figure out how to do that, guess what? Now we open up opportunities to provide care that's unbiased, that's not blocked by pay systems and institutional stuff, that now patients have access to real care. Who else can provide better care to patients than nurses, y'all? Let's just cut out all the middle people. That's a whole nother conversation. And so she said, I need this time. She said, this is my time in the middle of my day to unplug from my family, from this job, and it's my time. When I tell you, I thought about that afterwards, and I even went back and watched the replay. I'm like, that is a golden nugget right there. Because to me, I was like, well, we're here, y'all, today. We was here yesterday. What do y'all want to work on? And we always end up in productive dialogue, right? But for a moment, I was a little focused on let's get things done and kind of missed my own, principle that human connection and support is important. She's like, no, I just want to show up. I just want to talk to y'all, see y'all, spend this hour that I know is coming with some other nurses. That's all I need to decompress. Okay. And so, as we continue to talk about building communities, I'm going to stop here. If you guys have questions, even if you can't come off camera, you can ask your question. We can hear you. If you want to introduce yourself, you can also do that. I see we have some new people joined us. No. Okay. Um, if you have a question, you can throw it in the chat. So I want to hit these points that I promised to hit really quickly, so I can make sure that I'm being clear to what I said I was going to do. So we talked about the mission and the values of creating a community. So mission is just, what is driving the reason for why you want to create the community. About 2 weeks ago, one of the nurses, so I also work with nurses to start businesses. One of the nurses I'm working with through the time that we've been working, she said, Amanda, you have really helped me, and I think you should teach other nurses how to start communities. I have never thought about that prior to 2 weeks ago. But I have taught nurses how to start communities, and I think it's needed. There should not be one community. There should be plenty of communities for nurses to find those people that they connect with to help get them to different stages in their career. And so your mission is, what is the driving force behind people gathering in that space? The vision is where you want to go with the space, and then the values. So one of the values that we hold dear in Nurses in Tech is what I call candid conversations. And candid conversations are just where we talk about real situations, not always to come up with a solution, but to have this continuous and intentional conversation around topics that we feel are important that aren't getting addressed in other areas. And a lot of times when we have this continued topic, it does end up in some type of solution that we're working on creating. For example, the technology piece in Nurses in Tech. We have found from a lot of the interviews and the conversations that I've done that a lot of nurses know that AI is out there, but they don't really understand what AI is. And so I am in the process of co-creating, which is another one of the things I was going to address in this conversation, co-creating with another Nurses in Tech member, a series on the understanding of AI. Not just AI, but what is the difference between AI, machine learning, Internet of Things? How do these things, let's go back to how are these things even created? What is their purpose? Because they all have different purposes. You can't just say AI and then machine learning and AI are the same. They're not the same, right? So how are they created? What are the purposes? And then we can start talking about how to use them in a way that does no harm, right? So it's important to have these consistent conversations to understand what people really are struggling with and what they know and what they don't know, so that you can provide solutions that really meet them at their need. And so values are important because when you know what you value, it kind of sets the standard for what your community looks like. So for the next couple of months in Nurses in Tech, we will continue to focus on building a community structure that can support nurses in tech for the next 5 to 10 years. So that's important because we're being very intentional about the type of nurses that we allow. And in order for us to do that, we have to know what we value. What type of characteristics do nurses have to be successful in our community? Now, Nurses in Tech as a community has only been open since March 1st. It seems like it's been a whole lot longer, but it has not been that long. And I'm laughing because where I thought Nurses in Tech would be, even in January, to where I thought it would be when we started in March to where we are now, June 6th, are like 360 degrees different. And I'm so grateful because this is not something I arrived at. It came from an intentional process of recruiting. And then the nurses that I've recruited and are in our community are they're active participants in what happens in our community. And one of the things that blew my mind when I opened this community that I was not expecting is the amount of individualized attention that each nurse was going to need. Now they may have checked out some boxes on characteristics. For example, being a thought leader, being open-minded, mindset is big. Being coachable, Able to take action and to take action quickly. Not afraid to fail. And when I say not afraid to fail, that doesn't mean that they don't have a fear of failing, but they eventually can arrive to the idea of failing forward, realizing that failing is a part of learning, and you can't learn if you never take an action. I literally use that. That's what I say. Some other characteristics is they have to be optimistic but realistic, right? We can't live so far in what could possibly be that we never take an introspective look at where we actually are, right? And I'm a very realistic person. I will encourage you to the moon. Okay, if you want to go to the moon, I will encourage you to the moon. But on the way, I'm gonna be like, okay, well, where are we going first, second, and third? And by the time we get to third, I'm probably now like, okay, well, now that we have gotten here, I think we should reevaluate. I don't know if we're gonna reach the moon, but maybe we can reach Washington. I don't know what you think. Like, and so, but I really only need them to be able to be teachable and willing to take the action, which turned out to be a challenge for a lot of nurses, and not because we're nurses, but I think this is because we're people, right? Consistency, the ability to actually do the work, right? So if you're meeting with us and you're coming to the sessions and you have a goal, if you set a goal this week, when you come back next week, Amanda is the person that's like, okay, no, I kept notes. Your goal last week was this. What did you do with this goal? And if the nurse is like, well, I got a new goal, and I'm like, well, no, let's go back and figure out what happened to the goal from last week, right? Because there then comes this ability to take accountability, to be accountable for what you said you were going to do, and then willing to reflect when you get off the plan, when you get off the road. And so individualized support, and I want to say support, not coaching, because I believe coaching should have, coaching and support should go together. But there are a lot of people out here that are advertising coaching that don't support, right? They give you the action, they give you the information, but they don't support you in that journey. And I would like to think that I'm more of a supporter as well as a coach, because I want to nurture you through these steps. But there's certain characteristics you can pretty much, like as a parent, if you have kids, I got 5 of them. I could give all 5 of my kids the same action. I can tell you which one is going to take the action. I can tell you which one's going to dance around the action. I can tell you which one's going to try to bury the action. I can tell you which one's going to try to talk me out the action in hopes that I forget the action. That's my son, Matthew. He got the gift of gab. He gonna talk me all around the merry-go-round. And when he get done talking, and I'm still like, okay, so did you do it? He like, dang, you still didn't forget? No, I didn't forget. Okay. And so as a support in this journey, in this community in nurses and tech, I would like to think I'm a supporter as well as a coach, because I'm going to be there with you. But I also want to hold you accountable when you say you're going to do something, because these aren't my goals. These are your goals. And in our community, we can't be successful if you're not successful. And you can't be successful if I'm supposed to be holding you accountable if you don't take accountability and I don't hold your foot to the accountability. And so engagement and co-creation was the next thing I was talking about. And co-creation is basically in our community. We have nurses from all levels of experience and talents, different lifestyles, different races, and different ages, which I am so very proud of. I just recently did a kind of like an inventory of the different makeup of the nurses in our community. We have men in our community, which I'm very proud of. And at our 6-month mark, we will definitely be doing a lot more recruitment, especially in the area of recruiting men, even in the area of recruiting young boys in high school, and getting them introduced into the idea of nursing even being a reality for them. And I just think that's something where we can make a big change in nursing, because there is such a need for men to come into the healthcare field. And we do have, I guess we could say we have more male nurses than we used to, but we need more male nurses, and we need more male nurses from vulnerable communities to come into the healthcare field. And that's going to take a lot of work if we think about just worldwide, a lot of the stigma that comes along with our males from vulnerable communities, right? Even if we start thinking about the high school, the graduation rate from males from those communities, right? If we can't say we need more of this, but then we don't have a plan to actually make it happen at the level of impact, which is another reason why I think having communities in nursing could be so helpful and so supportive, because we are able to support them where they are to get to that next step. Um, Engagement and co-creation for me go together, because when you co-create with someone, it gives them the ability to own something. And our nurses, I don't assign any nurse anything. And every nurse that I meet with, I still meet with nurses regularly. I ask them, what is their goal? What do they see themselves doing in the next 3 to 5 years? I keep that from the very first meeting. I ask every nurse that. I keep that, and I always revisit it, because when they join our community, I don't want them to get off that path. I want them to bring that intention, that goal for themselves to our community, and then we in return help them to birth that goal. So anything I ask them to co-create on, it's from the purview of the goal they already came to the community with. Okay. And that I believe causes is where the real engagement happens. And so we have a lot of engagement numbers that I keep for Nurses in Tech. We have a lot of events that are only community events. We have our co-clerking sessions. I have one-on-one sessions with every member in our community every week, which is a whole nother level of responsibility. But I'm tracking engagement from many different areas, and trying to understand what is the secret sauce to engagement. But I think the secret sauce to engagement is also co-creation, and also understanding what the nurses value, and making sure they understand what they value, and having a way to keep them on track. We've all heard of shiny object syndrome, where, and if you live in this land of social media, you could be gun ho on, I am starting a consulting business today. You get on LinkedIn and you get to scrolling, and you be like, oh, she's a nurse writer. Nah, now I think I want to be a nurse writer, right? And then next week you get on there and you're like, oh, she's a podcaster. I think I want to be a podcaster, right? And each week, by the time you look up, you're like, I want to do this and I want to do that, and this is another thing that's on the list. And then it's like, okay, but what do you really want to do right now? Right? Do you want to be a podcaster? Do you want to be a writer? Do you want to work with patients? Do you not want to work with patients? Do you want to be on video? Do you not want to be on video? And so helping them get really, really clear on what they want to do, and then helping them stay there is, I think, a whole nother skill. Collaborative learning and growth. I think collaborative learning and growth are so important, is because nobody wants to be perceived as not smart, and nobody wants to be perceived as behind everybody else. I know some of the challenges we had when we first opened our community, when I was asking for nurses to volunteer to come on our live sessions. I literally had nurses that would tell me, you have nurses that have been nurses for 20 and 30 years. I just don't feel like I meet the standard. And I'm like, huh? What? Why? Like, there's no requirement. Like, I don't have a requirement that says you have to be a nurse that does this, and this. I literally say, giving you the opportunity to come on the live session so you have exposure, right, to being out in front of people and creating your own. I let them create their own topics. I give them insight and will give them some advice on the topics. But it's really an opportunity to get exposure to doing what it is you say you want to do. And so that's when that spirit of fear and insecurities and self-doubt set in. And so we've had to work through that, because that is something that holds us all back. And so nobody wants to seem like they're behind everybody else. And so creating opportunities for the nurses to be able to collaborate and learn and grow is so important. And I think our open conversations does that a lot. And our members end up having connections and working together in ways that they didn't even think about. So there's also a lot of offline, meaning out of our community collaboration that happens amongst our nurses. So we have nurses that own businesses, have startups, and there are other nurses in our community that they have skills that could help the business. And so we have a current collaboration going right now where one of our nurse businesses is contracting one of our members to be their CTO. Something that we never thought about, but through the consistent coming together and the consistent conversations, it's a good fit. And it's working out. And so we even have nurses that provide just professional advice and connections through that's a whole nother thing in our community that I think is minimized, that I need to really talk more about, is about how the power of our community expands the power of everyone's connections, right? So my connections and your connections, and we put all our connections together, and we have this nice connected web pretty much anywhere for us to be able to refer and connect each other to the things that we may need. I find that in community, it's much easier too for people to refer people to their connections in a community. Because if they've gone through the same process that you've gone through to get into the community, which I didn't add this on here, but having a process to building a community and a interview and a exception process to how people get in the community is so important. Now, I don't have a problem with free communities, but I think when you have a free community, it's a little harder to control who you allow in your community. And I'm not talking about the process here of, free communities or paid communities or all of that. But I do have to say, one thing about Nurses in Tech is we're not a free community. So there is an interview process. There's an exception criteria into our community. And that's even gotten more stringent since we've opened the community. Not because we don't want everyone, but because being a newer community, we know where we are. And in order for us to be able to have the impact in the next 2 to 3 years that we want to have, we have to be intentional about the leaders that we can create in our community now. So the nurses that are in our community now are to be our employees that help run, and they take Nurses in Tech to the next level, so that we operate as a true tech startup and we are actually able to have the impact that we want to have, right? So it's not necessarily a job interview, but then on the other hand, there is kind of a recruitment process that we've put together about, and we just keep changing and adding to it about, we know what type of nurses would do well in this community. AKA, we know what type of nurses that we want to employ to move our mission forward, right? Driving innovation and positive change. I think that is another, and all of these are part of the values that we hold dear, that I hold dear. Over here on my board, they're actually all over here. I try to make sure that any conversations we have, any gatherings we have, are focused on what can we do. So yeah, we spend time talking about what is and what's happening, because we don't want to be blind to reality. But at the end of it, the next question is, how can we help? How can we change this? This is the problem. What is the solution? I also like to have our nurses think about, is this a solution or a problem that we want to address now? Or is this something we need to address later? Right? We can't address everything, right? And we can't be like an octopus and be doing 18 different things, especially not right now. So we don't want to put too many irons in the fire right now, right? But so is that something that we table and we look at in year 2, year 3, or year 4, right? Resilience and support to challenging times. I think resilience is something that some of us have and we've learned through life circumstances. And believe it or not, I think resilience is something that we all have. I think how it's grown and how we mature in resilience is something that can either be taught or life is going to teach you. One or the other. It's either intentionally taught to you or life itself is going to teach you. So and so I think in building community, that is also where those shared experiences, nothing is more powerful than somebody saying to you, okay, you are going through this. Okay, you're in high school dropout, right? Okay, I too was a high school dropout, and this is what my path looked like. There's nothing more powerful than being able to say to somebody, now, somebody could say to you, oh, that sounds challenging. I'm sorry that you're going through that. Or they could say, you know what? I've been through that. I was in the exact same place. And let me tell you, not only what I did, but what I had to learn. Those are two different things. And because we're human beings, we live in a time where none of us are going through experiences that somebody else didn't go through. It's just a matter of being able to connect with those people. And so I know we're coming down to time. And as we continue at Nurses in Tech, and I continue to try to understand the impact of community in our profession at every stage, this is something we're going to continue to talk about and probably talk about even more. I do believe, and one of the goals I have is to understand how to quantify the need and the power of human
Did she freeze?
It seems like it, yeah.
Okay, I was just making
I
sure.
wasn't sure if it was. Yeah.
Hey guys, I was watching from YouTube, but it froze. Um, did Amanda end up having to wrap things up?
I guess so. I don't see her on here any longer, so I guess we can go.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'll hop off.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.